Welcome back. You're watching Metropole Television. My name is SIMBA, Elijah Charles KIAGE. Let's get into that conversation now. Here in the country, we're embracing a new educational system, the competency-based curriculum, which according to most parents has been quite tasking in terms of work to be done at home. But why is Kenya's education system headed in a world where the future is full of technology? Today, we talk matters revolutionizing education in a future full of technology. And joining us is TONEE NDUNGU, who is the founder and CEO of KYTABU. That is KYTABU. All right, education and training, and also a top 20 finalist in the Jack Ma Foundation Program Awards 2021. TONEE, good morning, sir.
Good to see you, Simba. How are you doing?
Amazing. Good to see you too. Let's get, for those people who want to know who KYTABU is, TONEE, who are you? What do you do?
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to be here, first of all. It is an honor to be here as well, and good morning to all your watchers. KYTABU is an edtech company based out of Nairobi, Kenya. We have been working over the last 8 years to provide digital content to students and educators, just teachers, on mobile and web. And we've been doing that pretty well. We currently have just shy of 300,000 users. And our goal is to make sure that digital content is accessible, affordable, and relevant to students and their educators, wherever they are.
Pretty much. Quite concise, TONEE, this morning. All right, let's talk about that penetration, TONEE. Would you say that during 2020, at the heart of the coronavirus pandemic, that's when you say that your relevance as a company was really then realized?
I think relevance as a company, that's a very good question. Relevance as a company was realized, probably, I'd even suggest in 2016, 2015, yes, when the Kenyan government put out the million tablet idea. And what people realized is it's more than hardware. It's not just a matter of the devices that are in children and schools' hands. It's the content that's in those devices. And there was a gap in that space. And there was a sense of acknowledgement that we need to do better in terms of delivering more meaningful content. But to your point about 2020, what actually happened is it was not that relevance was realized, its potential was realized. Yes. KYTABU, among other edtech companies, not just in the country, but around the continent, grew 4,000% on average. And to this day, we have not lost 50% of the people that joined the platforms in 2020. I think the essence of edtech is to show folk that the future of work, the future of their careers is very much based on the way children are educated now. And there's no promise. There's no guarantee that being an architect, being a pilot, being a dentist, being a doctor, being a neurosurgeon is going to be something that is valued in 5 to 10 years. So education technology is really what is coming in and saying, we can help you become versatile in that future. And 2020 accelerated parents' understanding of that reality.
Pretty much. I like the way you're saying that even in 2021, you've not even lost 50% of the people that you onboarded in a 2020. TONEE, is that the indication that indeed, whether we like it or not, that's what it is now, and do you expect that those numbers would continue to grow, TONEE?
Yeah, I definitely do so. I mean, you've just mentioned it when you were starting this segment. You talked about CBC, the competency-based learning curriculum, and how parents are struggling to keep up with it. And the reality of it is, and it's true, it's a very difficult way of learning, but the world has changed. And as inconvenient as CBC is, this is really the only true future that people have. Specifically because you are not going to take 844, try to fit it in 2025, 2030, 2035, and see results. As it is right now, 750,000 people lost their jobs last year in this country, in a place where almost 20% of the people out here do not have jobs, and there's a larger informal sector than there is a formal sector. So taking people through university, through colleges to get degrees and all of that is not necessarily promise that there's going to be a future. I perceive, and a lot of people in the education technology space perceive it this way. Illiteracy is not just the ability to read or write. In the future, illiteracy will be the inability to change careers and professional trajectories in a matter of months. So we think that education technology is here to stay. We think that online learning is really the future of learning. And we know for a fact that when you're trying to compete, not just in a local scale, but on a global scale,
yes,
EdTech is the only way you can be able to get that done. You can't fly around looking for universities in the US, in the UK, and in Asia to try and compete. You just have to learn online.
Did you start your company at the very first time in this country, TONEE, when the government is actually then concentrating heavily on this CBC mode of education? When do you find yourself pegging on that platform, TONEE?
We don't. And when we started in 2012,
is that a good thing or a bad thing, TONEE?
I think it's a good thing not to peg yourself on anybody else's decision making, because those decisions can change,
yes,
without your influence.
Yes.
I think that when we started in 2012, we were forecasting. I mean, we've been in technology for a long time, and personally, I've always seen that the best way to succeed is to forecast, is to look 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And when we started, we knew that, with a country like Kenya having more than half the people being children, and a continent like Africa having the youngest population on the planet, we knew that educating this continent, educating young people in this age would be meaningful. But how do you scale classrooms? How do you scale teachers? How do you scale curricula? You can't. So education technology has shown itself as promise, but it's pegged not on what governments or systems of education require. It's pegged on what students and the future of work requires.
Yes.
So thinking about the fact that now there's actually a smaller demand for engineers and a higher demand for creatives, because computers are replacing all the engineering jobs, means that we need to help young people, we need to help children treasure and learn how to be creative vis-a-vis how to be scientific, because computers are going to replace that mode of scientific logic with AI and ML, or artificial intelligence and machine learning, will be very, very cheap, whereas art and creatives and sport will be very, very expensive. So you want to make sure you can take people to an industry where they will make a living and not concentrate on an industry that is declining. And those are the kind of things that make me think that in the future, and this is why competency-based curriculums are important, in the future, it's your competency that is going to be valued, not what you have memorized or what you're good at in regurgitating. And I believe that is where the opportunity really is.
Pretty much. TONEE, can I ask you this question as well? I mean, when we're talking about COVID, the good side of COVID is that now we're talking about technology platforms, which we could have realized indeed if we were not forced to be in this space. Fine. But then we as an economy, TONEE, we've been sort of led to be laggards in terms of when it comes to adopting something that is new. Talk to me about that, TONEE. What stands as a challenge for the penetration of education technology in the country right now as we do not of it?
Right. I think Africa in general, and Kenya specifically, has been a very good early adopter of technology. I mean, you don't have to go very far.
Yes.
Whenever you hear fintech conversations globally, and this, I have watched everything, including JP Morgan's Chase presentations around the world. M-Pesa has always been picked up, and Kenya pointed out as a country where adoption has always been fast to the front.
Yes.
I feel like education technology is in the same space. One of the biggest barriers to early adoption is trust in technology, or trust in tech, TIT. And the TIT ratio in Kenya is extremely high. There's a lot of trust in technology ratios here. People are willing to adopt new things and try them out and see if they work. And education isn't a very far-fetched option. I think for many people, learning online is something that they definitely want to do. My colleagues and friends in different edtech spaces have been able to succeed, considerably, because a lot of people want to be part of this new move. So I feel like the adoption is not going to be a problem we face. I think the problem we will face, and this is something that is key to note, is integration with government tools. I mean, a good example is NEMIS, the National Education Management Information System, which a lot of schools have adopted and are using, but they don't necessarily have the facilities or the tools to do it.
Yes.
In EdTech, we can be able to create solutions that allow those schools to be able to use their mobile phones or integrate our platforms to the government platforms. But are those APIs available? Can we engage government in that platform and support government in their collection of data and decision-making skills? So those are the kind of things that we can be able to work on. I feel that there's a lot of opportunity between private sector and government to make things work. But as far as the Kenyan populace, parents, teachers, and students are concerned, adoption has never really been a challenge per se.
Pretty much. Tony, let me deviate to a personal level this morning. For anybody watching, I would like to say that you enabled it differently. Tony, as a dyslexic, enabled in that sense, do you think that it makes sense to you, therefore, this morning, that we're talking about technology for even students who are enabled differently like you, Tony?
Yeah, dyslexia is a very interesting. I like how you said it, enabled differently. It's a very different gift. We don't, as dyslexic students, do very well with text.
Yes.
We do much better with art and patterns. We see different forms and shapes in things. We don't necessarily, cram. We're not crammers. We will never cram anything. If you don't understand it, you'll never remember it.
Yes.
I think that as we go and grow, we're getting to see how the world has changed from text-based to audio and video-based solutions. I mean, think about it. One of the biggest social media platforms in the world, Instagram, is a very video-heavy and picture-heavy platform. And it's drawn billions of people. If you think about WhatsApp, if you think about Facebook, if you think about YouTube, some of the largest learning platforms in the planet are video driven. And you always ask yourself, why is this? Now, there are theories about ways of learning, which a lot of people don't tend to believe, which is fine. But I can definitely tell you that the visual aid that a child gets as they learn accelerates their rate of understanding 600%.
Yes.
So if a child gets visual stimuli, if a child gets tactile or touching stimuli, their child learns 600 times faster than if they were to learn, just one time, just touching it one time. And I think it's important to be able to value these opportunities in the way we learn. I think one of the things that I used to learn when I was in high school was I did so much better in things that used my hands and my eyes and my mouth and my sense of feeling than I did when I sat behind a classroom, like in a factory setting with 40 other students looking at one individual in front of me with a blackboard. And now, can we take that and put that through technology into a one-on-one adaptive learning platform? Yes, we can. We can give every child a single learning journey. And that makes me question why we wouldn't want to do that, because every single individual is an individual journey, is a specific journey, instead of clamoring people together and trying to industrialize them. Because schools and education systems were built in factory times, in the industrial age,
yes,
to make children factory workers. But now we're not doing that anymore. So why is the education system not changing? So there's a lot to be thought about in that space. But to your point, yes, my dyslexia has really helped me see different ways of learning and take advantage of those opportunities for young people.
Pretty much. Tony, against a personal question, I hear you speak. I hear the passion that you're putting behind your ideas this morning. Tony, how far are we from completely changing the way in which we run our education system in this country, Tony? How far are we?
You know what, if I knew that, I'd be extremely excited, because I'd be telling everyone when that would happen, but yes, I don't know.
But are you optimistic, Tony, that some of us who went through this rigid education system, some of us went through subjects that we never dreamt of even thinking about, is coming to an end, though?
I think so. I think so because we who went to those classes and did home science or those, whatever we did, and came out into the world and realized that there's no room for these things, are the ones now in positions of influence, in positions of power, and in positions of decision making. And we're coming back and saying, are my children going to go through the same thing,
yes,
and learn these things that they're never going to use? And then we're making decisions away from that. We're telling them, okay, we're looking at the world that we live in. When I was in high school, everybody wanted to be a pilot, everybody wanted to be a doctor, everyone wanted to be, an engineer, an architect. And now when I ask my kids what they want to be social media influencers, or they want to be content creators, or they want to be artists, or they want to be musicians, or they want to be athletes, or they want, and in reality, that is where the world is going. Because when I was in high school, 3 people used to fly a plane, and now a plane can be flown by no one. And so these things are changing so drastically, and we're seeing companies like Zoom being valued more than all the airline industry combined.
Yes.
Right? Think about that. Zoom in 2020 was more valuable than all the airlines in the world combined. Not the airline companies combined in terms of profits, or in terms of OPEX. Why? Because software has eaten up hardware, and soon artificial intelligence will be eating up software. And now it's when you get inside your house, your fridge will be telling you what you need to eat. Your radio will be playing music for you. Your emails will be sent for you. This is the life we're getting to live in. And you're going to be finding yourself, questioning what your kids are learning every time you see a new product coming out and realizing, hey, maybe this career path for my child is not the right path because software is eating up that sector. So I feel like, yes, there is a change. I am very optimistic. One of the things about being a founder and entrepreneur is you have to be optimistic about the future and place your bets against what your optimism is. So I believe that there is going to be a drastic change. What I'm curious to know is if parents are eager to take on this change, or we're always going to be at the back of the totem pole. We're always going to be at the end of the race. And I feel like Africa is the one that really should take this front and center and run with it, because we have the youngest population. We are the future. We literally are the future of the continent. So why would we not want to have our kids, doing the things that none of the generations that came before them are doing?
Quite important question there, TONEE. Maybe let me end this conversation this morning on the last two questions. Maybe I should have started by congratulating you, because what we do know is that you're top 20 finalist in the Jack Ma Foundation program awards in 2021. Let me start by saying I want you to win that, because I can see the passion that you're actually driving your ideas with this morning. Let me start from there, TONEE. What does it mean to you now to be in that top 20 list? And that money, should it come to you, TONEE, what do we expect to see from you?
Well, when Jack Ma came to Kenya a couple of years ago, I was proud to have him come to the NILAB, which is something I founded in 2009, 2010, and then passed it on to my friend Sam Bishuru to keep carrying on. It's good to see ideas that you drafted on a piece of paper turn into buildings, these buildings turn into a sector, and this sector change the country and the world, and have international folk like Jack Ma come down.
Yes.
The Africa Business Hero program selects, from Africa, a batch of top 3 people. The first person gets $300,000 or 32 million shillings. Number 2 gets 17 million, and number 3 gets 10 million. And the goal of this is to push what people have been working on forward. Now, for me, I'm privileged to be able to be part of that top 20, hopefully top 10, and hopefully win the prize. But the big thing for me is the validation. It's showing the world that we are, as Africans, very capable to create, build, run, deploy, implement, and successfully move ideas we have forward in our continent. For the longest time, we have always been the recipients of other people's products, usually American or European solution providers, which has always been a grand thing because the education system supported them to do that. They had capital to be able to do that. And to some extent, they had the reputation of building things and growing them. I mean, these are people who've come out of generations of family members that, had the likes of Rockefeller in them, the likes of, this is Steve Case, this is their trajectory. But in Kenya, and in Africa as a whole, we are a very young nation of 60 odd years from independence. And so we are crunching up from Rockefeller to Mark Zuckerberg in under 60 years. And we're coming up with entrepreneurs as we go. So a lot of the things we're doing them on, I like to call it on steroids.
Yes.
Being an entrepreneur is not something anyone in my family ever was. I'm the first entrepreneur to this level to my family. And I feel like ABH validates our move into this sector, not just for the world, but also for the kids that are coming out, of Kenya. We want, yes, winning 300,000 is great, but I want the person to come after me to grow businesses that are worth $300 million or 30 billion shillings. And I want them to do that when they're under 30. And this allows me to be able to show them, hey, if I can do it, you can too. So I'm very eager to be part of this team. It's not just about winning, it's about showing the world that the continent has what it takes, and growing this product into a larger business and impacting hundreds of millions of children as we go. So very excited to be part of ABH indeed.
Whew, what a lovely conversation, TONEE. I wish you the very best. That is TONEE NDUNGU, who's the founder and CEO KYTABU Incorporated, speaking this morning on the future of education technology. Thank you very much. You can talk to him at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. You can also talk to us directly in the studio. We are live on all those social media platforms on Metropole TVKE. We take a short break, and once we come back, Do you know that our economy contracted 0.3% in 2020? Yes, those numbers are late coming in, but what sectors really drove us this morning to that contraction? We'll be talking about them. And what does that mean for the rebasing of our GDP? Because we do expect to grow by 6%. Is that a reality? Gone by the fact that manufacturing, which was also behind that growth in 2020, actually did contract again. We'll be telling you even the tourism numbers, why they are and what we project them to be, and ask ourselves the questions, is that 6% a reality in a 2021? Once we come back here on a Metropole Television.